even I have to admit, this is like the weirdest thing that's happened to Xbox in a very long time, and it's surprising too. Like, you know, it's one of those things where you kind of look at what's happening, and I don't think anybody could have really guessed that this is actually going to happen. It's crazy, to be honest with you, and to be honest as well, I feel like I'm not sure where this will lead in the future. You know, it's one of those things where you kind of question maybe what's going to happen, and I think everything is kind of up in the air because of these types of moves and these types of announcements. It's pretty unprecedented in my opinion, and so when you look at this and you just kind of look at how Microsoft is handling things, you just really just shake your head a little bit and you just go, wow, man, I never expected, you know, this to happen, and it's just shocking in my opinion. So, you know, I know a lot of you guys are going to have some interesting things that you know, are going to be the topic of conversation for a while. So we might as well get into it. Hey, I'm Crap Gamer. This is Crap Gamer Reviews, back with another video. Thank you so much for checking it out. I certainly appreciate it. Please like, share, subscribe. I would certainly appreciate that as well. It helps out the channel. It could really help out tremendously if you just like it. Share it out, subscribe, would be awesome. And you know, listen, I think that it's important that if you're looking for someone who does daily content, I do that. It's, you know, something that I do every single day. I try to be fun yet informative. So if you enjoy that type of thing, hey, you found the guy. Microsoft is getting more PlayStation games, believe it or not, and this is shocking to say the least, because this was one that Sony went all out on. They hyped it up. Everybody was like losing their minds. Shenmue 3 is getting an enhanced edition on Xbox, and it's also coming to Nintendo for the first time. You get a free upgrade if you have the PS4 version. Announced by creator Yu Suzuki and publishers In Games, Shenmue 3 Enhanced will be officially unveiled at Gamescom this week and will feature overhauled visuals, performance boost, and quality of life updates. The Enhanced Edition will be released on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and Nintendo, though NN has yet to specify whether this means Switch or Switch 2. Players who already own the PS4 and PC versions of the game will be offered an upgrade path to the Enhanced Edition. New features for the Enhanced Edition include enhanced graphics and performance with sharper texture, faster load times, and smoother frame rate, 4K texture uplift offering more refined and detailed environments and characters, support for DLSS and FSR upscaling, and increasing the number of NPCs populating the village to make it feel more alive, a classic camera mode inspired by Shenmue 1 and 2, gameplay tweaks including optional stamina system adjustments, health restoration before fights, and reduced money barriers for smoother progression, and the ability to skip cutscenes and conversations, an expanded QTE timing window, menu, and UX enhancements. And it says all major changes which have been added to Shenmue 3 Enhanced can be turned off should players prefer to play something closer to the original game. The long-awaited RPG sequel was released for PS4 via the 2019. It appeared to get off to a difficult start, debuting at number 17 on the UK charts and selling just 18,000 copies during its launch week in Japan. In the UK, Shenmue 3 sold a little more than half of the previous year's Shenmue 1 and 2 remaster at launch. However, sales would have been skewed by Shenmue 3's huge Kickstarter success. In 2016, the project raised over $6.3 million from almost 70,000 backers, making it the highest funded video game in Kickstarter history. In November 2023, Shenmue creator Yu Suzuki said that if Shenmue 4 happens, he wants to make it more accessible to new players than Shenmue 3, which is primarily designed to please hardcore Kickstarter backers. He said, and I quote, "I want Shenmue 4 to be enjoyable for newcomers. To make that possible, the most important thing is to make it enjoyable without knowing previous events in the story. I don't think that a new player wants to know 100% of the story. 20% or 30% could be enough." Suzuki has pondered the idea of making a sequel similar to Yakuza 0 because he thinks recreating the streets with modern visuals on a new engine alone would make it worth doing. So, again, this was a PlayStation console exclusive, and it's coming to Xbox now. I think the cool thing is, like, I have this game on PlayStation 4, but I ended up not playing it, and the reason why I didn't play it was because I had heard from multiple sources that had multiple friends that have played it who were fans of the Shenmue 1 and 2, which I am. I have the remasters, and I've played through those. I had played through the original 2 Shenmues, the first one on Dreamcast, the second one on the original Xbox as well. So I love the franchise, but I had heard they had changed some things to make it like more difficult. And so it looks like they're going to be able to give you the option to kind of switch out of that. But it's just such a weird time, right? Like, think about that for a second. We're getting all these games that, were PlayStation exclusive, and I just feel like, it's one of those things where it's kind of shocking, to say the least. And for me anyway, I kind of look at this and I just think it's so interesting. It's like, who would have ever thought that this would have happened the way that it is, that Xbox fans are going to be getting, PlayStation exclusive games, and, the way that we see, these types of things kind of developing. Like, you have to wonder, how is it going to continue to happen? Is this going to be something that, that Microsoft continues to kind of end up getting? Maybe Sony really doesn't look at Xbox as a competition anymore. It's really hard to say, but yeah, it's interesting. It's shocking. I have to say that I am definitely in that sort of space where I think, anything can happen at this point. It wouldn't shock me, right? I mean, you already have Gears of War going to PlayStation, Halo probably going to PlayStation. So with all this stuff happening, and then you have, Helldivers 2 coming to Xbox, and you have, Shenmue, and I know this isn't a first-party PlayStation game, but it's like they must be lessening up on what they want and what they kind of are willing to put on Xbox. And even look at Death Stranding, right? They gave up the rights to that. They gave that back to Kojima. That game ended up releasing on Xbox. So it's just kind of crazy how this kind of stuff happens, and it's just, to me anyway, it's interesting, and it's a little bit shocking, and I think people are definitely kind of surprised by these types of announcements. So I'm very curious to hear what everybody else has to say on this stuff. It's a super interesting game and franchise. If you've never played it, I think you owe it to yourself to play it. I think a lot of games got pretty big and took a lot of stuff from Shenmue, you know what I mean? I just think that it's such an interactive game. I remember playing the first one. I think it was on 3 or 4 discs on the Dreamcast, and I was just so immersed in that because I hadn't really played anything like that, and it was so interesting and so like interactive, and you could go into the bars and you could play like the arcade games. You could really play the Sega arcade games that were in there. The way that time passed, everything just about it was interesting. Like, you could work a job in that game, which I thought was kind of crazy, but still pretty interesting, to say the least. Kind of the way that they've handled this, I know, like, maybe we'll get a sequel one day, I don't really know, but it's interesting, and I do think that the way that things are going, would it shock me to see some of Sony's bigger games come to Xbox at this point? Nope. It definitely wouldn't shock me, and I think it shouldn't shock other people either, you know what I mean? I remember doing I remember kind of doing some things kind of differently, or whatever the case may be, I did a podcast, right? And I was doing this podcast, and this was right after I think Helldivers was announced for Xbox, and I said, don't put your head in the sand, because that's what Xbox fans did with the just 4 games thing, or not every game will come to PC and that stuff. It's like, once this starts, it starts this thing that makes it almost impossible to stop. So, listen, I would love to be wrong on that, because I think exclusivity is still needed. And I think that competition is still needed in the console space. But I think that's all thrown out the window, unfortunately, unless you're Nintendo. So I would love to hear your guys' take on all this. I, of course, will link this in the description. Let me know what you all think. I certainly do appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have a great day. Rack 'em up, fact 'em up, Crap Gamer 'em up. I'll catch you guys next time. As always, game on, Crap Gamer out.